I'm going to be giving a run-through on how to use the retirement simulation model. This is the Overview tab. This is the Dashboard tab, which is currently empty because there is no input in the model yet. As with the Detail Output table, this will all populate once you put in input. And to do that, you go to the Input tab. That's where you'll start. And on this screen, you'll also have a Calculate Model button. That's the only macro that's in this spreadsheet. If you do not want to use macros, then you'll just have to manually calculate the Monte Carlo simulations. The single trials will calculate automatically, but when you do the Monte Carlo 1,000 trial iterations, you need to push calculate. So anyway, just to get the input into the sheet, this is where you'll do it. And you're going to be putting your user inputs into these green spaces. And we'll walk through that right now. The first step is the start year. This is the beginning that the model is going to start from. And this can be the current year or any year in the future. Next, you're going to put in the portfolio beginning value. This is the amount you think you're going to have invested starting at the start year. For our model purposes, let's say we're going to have $225,000 saved up in 2021, and at that point forward, we're going to be saving $5,000 per year, and we're going to grow that by 5% per year. We're going to grow the amount that we're saving each year by 5%. You could also, if you were picking a big number, like say you're going to save $12,000 a year, but you couldn't save that every year, you're going to start reducing that over time. You could do that by choosing a negative percentage, but we're going to actually grow this, so we're going to grow it by a positive 5% per year. Initial retirement income amount, this is going to be in present value dollars. So today's dollars, we're going to say we're going to need $75,000. Inflation rate we're going to pick is 1.75%. And we are going to make our retirement year, let's say 30 years from now, so in 2051. So once we put that in there, it calculates the future value of that first stream of income from 75,000, and the future value is going to be 126,000. So then the next thing you can do is, this is an optional step B. If you determine that you only need to spend the $75,000 per year for the first few years or several years of retirement, and then you'll get more efficient and can reduce it, you can model that here. So you can say, after some amount of time, I'm going to be able to reduce my spending needs, my income needs by 10%. And that's going to happen, let's say, 10 years after retirement. That's how you do that. But again, this is optional, but we'll go ahead and model that. Here's where you put in the person information. So we're going to work with a person named John. And for purposes of this, we're going to say he's married to a woman named Jane. Now, if you were single, you would just fill in this top row here, this row. If you're married, you're going to use both rows. And if you are married, what you're going to want to do is in this top row, you're going to want to put the person who has the higher Social Security benefits. And down here, you're going to want to put the person with the lower Social Security benefits. And that's so that the model handles survival benefits properly. So going forward, let's put a year of birth in. Let's say that John was born in 1991 and Jane was born in 1996. And for estimated age of death, we'll say they're both pretty healthy. John, let's say, estimating he will live to 93, and Jane, let's say, to 95. Social Security per month, this is what you're estimating you're going to be taking out per month at the time you claim Social Security. So let's say John is going to get $22.50 per month, and he's going to claim it at age 65. Jane is going to be getting less than the $22.50, so let's say she gets $1,500 per month, and she is also going to claim at age 65. That takes care of Social Security. On these yellow areas, you can use either pension. You can also use this for an annuity if you have an annuity instead of a pension. If you have both, you may just have to try to add both of them together and model it that way. But this is just one or the other, or you can do some combination of other income that you're going to have coming in. So for this purpose, we'll just call it a pension. And for John, let's say his estimated pension is $1,500 per month. And he's going to start taking that at age 65. And let's say he does have survivor benefits on that pension. Let's say Jane also has a pension, and hers is $1,750 per month. And she's going to start taking hers at age 60. But let's say that she does not have survivor benefits. Okay, so that takes care of all of that input. The next input here on area D is for big ticket items, one-time items that cost you a significant amount of money, or they could be windfalls where you're getting a large amount of money coming into your portfolio. For instance, if you get an inheritance and you're going to put that cash into your portfolio calculation, or if you sell a house and you have excess equity that you're not going to put into a new house, you could put that in here. But basically what we're going to do here is we're going to put the year. So let's say we're going to just talk about some miscellaneous expense that we know we're going to have in the year 2060. You're going to probably have several of these. Then since this is a cost, you're going to put it in as a negative value, negative $50,000, let's say, and then it'll calculate the future value of that for you. And then we'll just call this miscellaneous here. So you could put in several of these: cars, houses, weddings, all as negative numbers, and if you had an inheritance, you just put that in as a positive number. Down here is where you can add additional large amounts, costs for long-term care if you don't have insurance, but you know you're going to have some dollar figures you're going to have to deal with out in time. What the model does is it populates the 3 years preceding the death of each person, so John's last 3 years and Jane's last 3 years. And let's just say in the third year before death, it's $50,000 cost, $75,000 cost 2 years before, and the year of death, $100,000. And we'll do the same for Jane, just to keep it easy. There you go. And then we're done with that part, the big tickets part. Now we're going to talk about how is the model going to grow your portfolio value? And this is going to be based on asset allocation assumptions, compound annual growth assumptions, and standard deviation. The first thing you need to do is, well, let me back up. There's basically, you can split this into two phases. You can have an initial phase that starts at the start year, and you can just have that go through the entire model, or you can decide that you want to at a later stage in the model, say closer to retirement, you want to change your allocation. So we'll show you both, how to do both. So let's just say from the start year, since it's early in John and Jane's portfolio, they're going to be in 100% equity. Now we need to model the compound annual growth and standard deviation. We do this based on a historical database that's driven off of the allocation percentage that you choose. And then it has the historical returns for all of those different portfolios. So we're going to choose to start this one from right before the Great Depression, and we want to go all the way through to 2020. And that's going to show you that we're going to have a compound annual growth based on that of 9.8% and a standard deviation of 19.4%. You could change this, let's say if you want to skip the Great Depression, and say you started at 1936, it would give you a different value there. Depending on which year you want to choose, it'll give you both. You can change the forward year and the back year. Actually, that you can't go backwards. So let's say there we go. That's only 1 year, so it's a really low standard deviation, but you get the point. So that's how it works. But let's just set these back to where we had them, 1928 and 2020. There we go. And now let's say so they're going to be 100% invested, but when they get closer to retirement, they're going to want to change that, let's say, to 60% equity, 40% bonds. And we're going to want to start that 10 years before retirement, so 2041. So that's going to be their return for their more conservative portfolio starting in 2041. Then what you can do is you can set a goal for the ending portfolio that balance. This is the balance that will be there after both people involved in this model pass away. And one way you can do it is just say, I don't want this to ever go below negative, below zero, and have the model tell you what the odds are of that. Or you can pick a value, say if you want to keep it, above 2.5 million at the end, what the odds of that? Let's just keep it at 0 for that. Okay, so that's basically it. You've got all the inputs in there, and as you can see, if you look at the detail, all those details have already been populated into the model. The ages of Jane and John, the year that it is, the phase 1 portfolio returns, the phase 2 portfolio returns, and all the savings information, Social Security and pension. You can see the death benefits here kicking in. Now, if I were to push calculate right now, you would see that all of these standard deviations or these returns would change, because that's just it doing a model. But before I do that, let's go back to the input sheet and run the calculation. Right now, we don't know what the odds of success are, so I'm going to push calculate, and it will tell me the odds of success are pretty good, almost 90%. But since it's calculated, these numbers are now going to be changed a little bit for this single trial. I'll push it again here, and you'll see these returns, those change because these all vary based on the normal distribution and the standard deviation. So there you have, that's the input and that's the detailed output. And then we have we can just push calculate another time there to see that. And then we can go to the dashboard. This gives you a good summary of everything, and you can spend some time on this page of doing different visualizations of this to help you decide how to change your plan a little bit if you need to. So this part here on the left shows you the sample result of a single iteration. It's 41 years of retirement. It's $59.5 million end portfolio value, and the modeled compound annual growth is 8.4%, and that's on average. You can see there's the dip because you change your allocation strategy. This orange line is the target, and then here's your actual returns that are modeled based on the variation that's built into the Monte Carlo analysis. So then this $59.5 million, this basically here is this same sample result here, this $59 million. But this is showing you the entire results of the 1,000 iteration simulation. I've truncated this off at $100 million because I figure if it's over $100 million, that's probably don't need to know all that detail. But you know that the maximum is 1.2 billion, so it's fairly large. So anyway, what this model does is it shows you all of the different results, and it shows you that by the time you get to the target, which is 0, out here, you're where you are right here, almost at 90%. So the 90th percentile is here, almost 90% of the results are better than that. 10% or 108 of the 1,000 trials are actually negative. So these show you the 80th percentile, the 90th percentile, and the 95th percentile. Also shows you where the median is, halfway, half the results are better, half the results are lower, and the average. So there you have. So if we push calculate, you'll see this model moves a little bit because 1,000 iterations isn't infinity. It will always be slightly different when you run a new 1,000 models. But it'll always give you a significantly different value on this ending portfolio, and it'll be something along these lines here. So you can just see that just to see how it changes for different scenarios. Here's one where you only end up with $2 million left, as a result. And you could look here at the detail and say, well, what's driving that? You could see what's driving that, and there's the $2 million. And then that will help you just decide what you want to do. Maybe there's things that you need to change on the input to make this look a little bit better. Maybe you need to save a little bit more. Maybe you need to increase your savings growth. Maybe you need to be more aggressive out in time. But anyway, that's the way the model works, and hopefully it will be helpful for you. Thank you.